Welcome again, my dear students of class 9th. Today we will continue the story, The Fall of Troy, Part 2. But before that, let us see how our first part ended with. We saw there that Paris himself was killed by a poisoned arrow. The Trojans were tired of being shut up in their city, and the Greeks were longing to see their homes again. But still, the fighting went on. Let's see the second part of the story today. The Fall of Troy, Part 2. One of the first epics on the history of movies. It tells the story of the fall of Troy. As we have seen, this is a story of the fall of Troy, where the prince of Troy, that is Paris, he seduces Helen, queen of Sparta, and takes her to Troy, city-state of his father, King Priam. King Priam and his son Paris, and they belonged to Troy, and they had abducted, or you can say seduced, Behlana Fuslana. So they seduced, Paris seduced Helen, queen of Sparta, and because of this there became an enmity between Troy and Greeks. The Greeks declare war against the Trojans, and after 10 years of siege finally manage to invade the city with a wooden horse. We can see here that they had made a wooden horse, and because of the wooden horse they could invade the city. That means the Greeks won and the Troy lost the war. That is why the lesson name is The Fall of Troy. So 3.2 The Fall of Troy, Part 2. At last, the wise Greek leader Odysseus thought of a tricky plan. At last means continuously for 9 years the war continued, and they were all tired, and we saw the prince was killed, and also we could see that Odysseus had killed Hector, and many were killed there. So let's see what happens next. So there a tricky plan was suggested by Odysseus. The Greek made a huge wooden horse inside which many great fighters hid in. This is a summary, so I'll just shorten it and then we'll go forward with line by line explanation. It was pretended that all Greek soldiers had sailed away from Troy city. Now it so happened that all the soldiers, all the great fighters, they had hidden themselves in the wooden horse. That means the wooden horse was very large, and it could keep so many soldiers inside it. But they pretended to sail away. Only the wooden horse left as an offering to God. The Trojans liked the beautiful horse and wanted to take it inside the Troy city. Now Trojans saw the horse, and they were like attracted by it, and they wanted to take this horse into the Troy city. They broke down the strong wall. As you all know, there was a strong wall around the city. They broke the strong wall and dragged the horse in. At night, the Greek fighter came out of the horse. Now, you know that the Greek fighters were hiding themselves inside the horse. You can see in the picture. So, they came out of the horse at night and attacked the sleeping city, set fire to the whole city. In the morning, nothing was left of the proud, rich city. And this is the fall of the city. So, children, this was the summary of part 2. Let's see the lesson now. Part 2. We'll do the reading first, and then line-wise I'll explain you. At last Troy was taken, not by force, but by a trick. It was the cunning Odysseus who thought of a plan to obtain the victory. Let us build a great wooden horse, he said, big enough to hold men inside it, and let some of our best fighters hide in the horse. Then let us burn our tents and pretend to sail away in our ships. But instead of sailing away, we will return in the night. When the Trojans are asleep, we will attack the city and burn and kill. The Greek leaders decided to follow the advice of the wise Odysseus. So a great horse of wood was made by a skillful engineer, and the greatest heroes, Menelaus, Odysseus himself, and others entered it. The last man to go in being the architect himself, who knew the secret of opening and shutting the entrance. That evening, the Greeks burned their tents and sailed away in their ships. But they did not go very far. Only one man was left behind to persuade the Trojans to drag the horse into their city. Let's see line-wise explanation of this paragraph. Now, at last Troy was taken, not by force but by a trick. It so happened that the name itself tells us the fall of Troy. That means Troy had lost the war, and it was not taken by force or by any war, but there was a trick that the Greeks had planned for the Troy. It was the cunning Odysseus. Now here it is said cunning Odysseus, who thought of a plan to obtain the victory. The plan was given by cunning Odysseus, and that plan was used to obtain the victory. So that means the Greeks won the war. This is the cunning Odysseus. What did he say? He said, let us build a great wooden horse. He gave an idea. He gave a plan. He told, let us build a great wooden horse. You can see in the picture here. How much big? Big enough to hold men inside it. The horse should be so large, so big that it can hold many men, many strong men, the warriors inside it. And who were sitting inside it, hiding? And let some of our best fighters hide inside the horse. Not all, not the entire army, but a few of the best fighters, they hid themselves in the horse. Also, the plan carried forward like this. Then let us burn our tents and pretend to sail away in our ships. You can see they pretended. उन्होंने बहाना बनाया, उन्होंने दिखाया ऐसा. Pretend करना यानी दिखाना. To sail away in our ships. उन्होंने they burned the tents and they also sailed away in their ships. But instead of sailing away, they pretended to sail, but they didn't sail very far. We will return in the night, and the plan was that we will sail थोड़ा दूर चले जाएंगे and then we will return in the night, and रात को लौट कर आएंगे. When the Trojans are asleep, the plan continued. That when the Trojans are asleep, we will attack the city and burn and kill. The soldiers, they planned that a few of them will just sail away, थोड़े distance पे जाएंगे, रात को लौट कर आएंगे. And when the Trojans will be asleep, we will attack the city and burn and kill. You can see in the pictures, it was a night and the Trojans, they were sleeping. These people sailed a little away from the Troy, and then they planned to come back in the night, attack the city, burn the city and kill the people there. The Greek leaders decided to follow the advice of the wise Odysseus. The entire plan that the Odysseus had shared with the Greek leaders, they were ready to accept whatever he said. So the Greek leaders decided to follow the advice of the wise Odysseus, the wise and the cunning Odysseus. You can see in the pictures, and you can see the Greek leaders also who followed him. So according to the plan, A great horse of wood was made by a skillful engineer. So who made this horse? A skillful engineer according to the planning. And the greatest heroes, now we are going to see the remaining heroes. We have seen that Hector was killed, we have seen that Paris was killed, but now the Greek leaders, the greatest heroes were alive. Menelaus, Odysseus himself and others entered it. Who entered this horse? Menelaus, Odysseus himself, and along with them other strong brave warriors also entered the horse and hid themselves. The last man to go in being the architect himself, who knew the secret of opening and shutting the entrance. Everybody entered inside the horse, and then the last person to enter the horse was the architect himself, because he only knew how to open the door and how to close the door. So when he gets inside, he will close the door, and when the attack will take place, he will be the first one to open the door. So who was the last one to enter the horse, children? It was the architect. That evening, the Greeks burned their tents and sailed away in their ships. And according to the planning, what the Greeks did, they burned their tents to show that they have left, and they sailed away in their ships. You can see the pictures, children, and that evening also is shown there in the picture. But they did not go very far. As you all know, children, according to the planning, they decided to sail away but not go very far. Only one man was left behind to persuade the Trojans to drag the horse into their city. But before they left their one man there on the shore, so that when the Troy comes out, they will see this man. So they kept their man there. They left him behind so that he will persuade, मतलब उनको मना लेगा, उनको समझाएगा, उनको बताएगा. Persuade the Trojans to drag the horse, कि घोड़े को खींच के city के अंदर ले जाए. Why to drag this horse into the city? Because inside the horse the brave soldiers were hiding themselves. Only one man was left behind to persuade the Trojans to drag the horse into their city. And you can see that the horse is being dragged by the Trojans. And who convinced them? The man who was left behind by the Greeks. Okay, let's see the next part of the story. Next day, the Trojans woke up expecting to go out and fight as they had done for the past 10 years. What delight and surprise they felt at the sight they saw on the seashore outside the walls. It seemed that the long siege was over at last. The tents had been burnt. The shore was deserted. The Greek ships had all gone. It's peace at last, they cried, and opened wide their gates and came out in large numbers on the plains, glad to be free again to go where they pleased. Then they saw on the sands the huge wooden horse. They gathered round it in astonishment, for it was indeed a wonderful piece of work. As they were wondering how the horse had been built and why it had been left behind, they found a Greek with his hands tied together, lying under it. When the Trojans dragged him out, the man pretended to be very frightened of them. When he was commanded to tell them why the Greeks had gone and why they had left this horse behind, he pretended to tremble very much and refused to speak. So let's see line-wise the explanation of the second part. Next day, the Trojans woke up. दूसरे दिन क्या हुआ? The Trojans, they got up early in the morning, expecting to go out and fight as they had done for the past 10 years. Children, as you know, past 10 years the war was taking place every day between the Trojans and the Greeks, and similarly the Trojans had woke up, and now they were expecting that we'll get up, we'll go out and we'll have the war, fight again. Every morning they used to fight, entire day, the night they used to go back to the city, and so on. So they expected the same today also. What delight and surprise they felt at the sight they saw on the seashore outside the walls. And when they came outside the walls and they saw that the tents were burned, the shore was like nobody was there. So seeing that shore and outside the wall, the scene, they were so delighted, surprised, happy. It seemed that the long siege was over at last, and when they came out, every day they had a war and they had a fight amongst themselves. So when they came out, they thought, oh God, now the war is over. What they saw when they came outside their walls, the tents had been burned. The shore was deserted. Deserted means there was nobody on the shore. Everything was clear now. The Greek ships had all gone and they could not find anybody there on the shore. That means they believed that the Greeks had left. They had all gone. You can see in the picture. It's peace at last, they cried, and opened wide their gates and came out in large numbers. When they saw the deserted scene of the shore, they saw that there were no ships, the tents were burned. They were very, very happy, and with joy they cried out that it's peace at last. After so many years, they found that the seashore was deserted and there was peace all around. So they opened their gates wide and they came out. They rushed out from the gates on the shore in large numbers. On the plain, glad to be free again, to go where they pleased, and they rushed out of the gates on the plain, and they were so glad, they were so happy to be free again. Free again because they were not able to go all these years outside their walls. They were like inside their walls only. So they were very, very happy, very glad that they could run on the seashore free where they pleased. Then they saw on the sands the huge wooden horse, and when they came out of their walls, they saw on the shore that there was a big, huge wooden horse. They gathered round it in astonishment, for it was indeed a wonderful piece of work. When they came out on the shore and when they saw this huge horse, they were astonished, आश्चर्यचकित हो गए. They were surprised, for it was indeed a wonderful piece of work. क्योंकि जो घोड़ा था वो बहुत खूबसूरत था, बहुत ही क्रिएटिविटी के साथ बनाया गया था. So they were amazed to see this wonderful piece of work. As they were wondering how the horse had been built and why it had been left behind. And anybody will, when they see a horse like this, and that too a very huge horse, they will get amazed. And they also got amazed, they were surprised, they were wondering that what the horse was doing on the shore and who had built it and why it had been left behind. और इसको पीछे छोड़कर ये लोग क्यों चले गए, किसने बनाया, और why it was left behind on the shore. So they were surrounding it and amazed at seeing such a huge horse. They found a Greek with his hands tied together lying under it. And not only the horse, but they also saw that a Greek, according to the plan, we know that they had left one of their brave man so that he could convey the message to them. So they found a Greek with his hands tied together lying under it. Under it means under the wooden horse. He was lying there and his hands were tied, as you can see in the picture. When the Trojans dragged him out, The man pretended to be very frightened of them. और जब Trojans ने उसको बाहर खींच के निकाला, dragged him out means to pull him out, the man pretended, and you can see the man, he is frightened and he's pretending to be frightened. दिखा रहा है कि मुझे डर लग रहा है. When he was commanded to tell them why the Greeks had gone, because the Greeks pulled him out, they dragged him out, they commanded him, who are you, why are you left behind, and what is the reason you are there. So he was pretending to be frightened. And why they had left this horse behind, he pretended to tremble very much and refused to speak. And they also asked him why this huge horse has been kept behind. So he pretended again to tremble very much, and he was refusing to speak. बोलने से मना कर रहा था. When at last they threatened to kill him, and last में उन्होंने क्या किया, उसको धमकाया, डराया, threatened to kill him. He spoke and told them this false tale. फिर डरने का बहाना बनाया, डरने का pretend किया. He pretended to be afraid. And he was threatened, धमकाया गया कि तुझे हम मार डालेंगे. So he spoke and told them this false tale, झूठी कहानी. यहाँ TALE tale means a story. झूठी कहानी बताना शुरू किया. The Greeks are tired of the long war and have sailed away in their ships, he said. Now what story, what false tale, what false story he told? That the Greeks were tired of the 10 long years of war, and now they have left this place and they have sailed away in their ships. Let's see the next part of the story. The Greeks are tired of the long war and have sailed away in their ships, he said. But they are afraid of the long voyage home too, and so they have made this horse and left it as an offering to the god of the sea. They wanted also to kill me and offer me as a sacrifice to the sea god, but I escaped and hid from them. But why did the Greeks make such a huge horse? Some of the Trojans asked, and the cunning Greek made this reply: if they had made a smaller offering, you might have taken it into your city. Then the luck would have gone to the Trojans and not to the Greeks. That is why they made it too big to go inside your gates. The Trojans were delighted to hear this. The Greeks have gone, they said, and the walls are no longer necessary. Let us make a hole in the wall and drag the horse in. Let's see the line-wise explanation. But they are afraid of the long voyage home too, and so they have made this horse. Now this brave warrior of Greeks is misguiding the Trojans. What he is telling? That the Greeks were afraid of the long voyage home. मतलब voyage यानी वो ship में जाने वाले थे, समुंदर पे सफ़र करने वाले थे. So that was a long voyage on ship. So they have made this horse. इसीलिए उन्होंने इस बड़े ऊंचे घोड़े को बनाया. They wanted also to kill me and offer me as a sacrifice to the sea god. Now they made this huge horse as a sacrifice to sea god, praying that protect us while we are going on the waters. And he is telling that they also tried to kill me to offer me as a sacrifice to the sea god. लेकिन मैंने क्या किया? But I escaped and hid from them. लेकिन मैं उनसे छुप गया यहाँ पर. But why did the Greeks make such a huge horse? Some of the Trojans asked. लेकिन if you have to offer a sacrifice to God, what is the need of such a big horse? इतने बड़े घोड़े की क्या ज़रूरत है? You can offer a small horse also to the sea god. So the Trojans, they asked this question to that man. And the cunning Greek made this reply. और जो cunning Greek था उसने क्या जवाब दिया? If they had made a smaller offering, यहाँ दिख रहा है पिक्चर में, you can see a small horse, and he's saying if they would have made the smaller offering, you might have taken it into your city. तो आपने उसको उठा के क्या किया होता? अपने सिटी के अंदर ले गए होते. Then the luck would have gone to the Trojans and not to the Greeks. And he is telling a false tale to them that if they would have made a small horse, then you would have taken that inside your city, and the good luck would have gone to you all and not to the Greeks. And therefore they made a huge horse so that you cannot take it inside your walls. That is why they made it too big to go inside your gates. और इसी कारण से उन्होंने इतना ऊंचा और चौड़ा हॉर्स बनाया that it cannot go inside your gates. You can see in the picture that the horse is so large, larger than the gate, that it cannot be taken inside easily. The Trojans were delighted to hear this. The Greeks have gone, they said. Trojans बहुत खुश हो गए. They were so excited, delighted, happy, full of joy to hear that the Greeks have gone, because they were tired of the long 10 years wars and that they were inside their walls all these years. And the walls are no longer necessary. And now the Trojans are thinking that the Greeks have gone and now we can enjoy our lives. So there is no need of this wall also, because there is no danger now anymore. Let us make a hole in the wall and drag the horse in. And what did the Trojans decide when they saw that the Greeks have gone and now the shore was deserted and there was no fear of any person now? So they were very excited, very happy, and they thought that now there is no need of this wall. So they made a plan. Let us make a hole in the wall. And as told by the cunning soldier, that if the horse was small, then the good luck would have gone to them. So they thought that the good luck should come to us. So in any way we need to pull this huge horse inside. So they made a plan to make a hole in the wall. You can see there in the picture. And what they decided, to drag the horse in. This is all about the second part of the story. Next part of the story will be continued on Friday, children. But before I end up my lesson, there is an assignment for you. There are some factual questions given here. I'll read it to you. Please find out the answers for it. It is based on the portion that I have taught you today. So please find out the answers and do it in your fair notebook. How did Odysseus plan to defeat the Trojans? What was the reason for Troy to rejoice and celebrate? Think and answer. Was it enough to use the wooden horse to hide? What was done to make the Trojans take it inside the city? How did the cunning Greek explain the presence of such a large wooden horse? Do you think the Greeks and Trojans were superstitious? Give reasons for your answer. Superstitious यानी अंधविश्वासी. क्या Greeks और Trojans जो थे वो अंधविश्वास में believe करते थे क्या? So you have to solve these questions in your notebook. Then you have an English workshop also. Find and write the Greek and Trojan names used in the story, part 1 and part 2. As you know, children, there were two opposite teams, the Greek and the Trojans. So a few names of places and names of people have been given here. You have to make two columns, the Greeks and the Trojans, and below the columns you have to write the names of places and the people who belong to Greek, and the names of places and people who belong to Trojans. Then one more question has been put up here. Put the following events in the order in which they took place. Number them accordingly. Here you have been given A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L. So this is a story, but you have to put it in the correct order as given in the story in your textbook. So see that you put this in a correct order. That is all for today, children. I hope you have understood this part of the story. In the next period, we will continue the next part of the story. Till then, take care, be safe, be inside. God bless you. Take care. Thank you, children.